So, this is a podcast.
Don't do that to me.
Welcome, everyone, to a different episode of Into the Pages. We've got a special guest, and we're lacking one person. But I was thinking it would be super fun with the new release of Iron Flame a few weeks ago if I got my friend here, Aisling, to come on the podcast with me and we will discuss all things Fourth Wing. So that's why we're here.
That's why we're here. Okay, well, I guess what got me into reading is I was always drawn to fantasy, and Spiderwick Chronicles is what really got me hooked. That was the series that really drew me in and kind of got me wanting more. And then from Spiderwick, I went to Series of Unfortunate Events, and kind of from there, and Roald Dahl. I think that's how you say his name.
I don't recognize that name.
Roald Dahl?
Roald Dahl. That's the author, though? Or
Yeah.
Okay.
It's kind of an interesting
For a series of unfortunate events?
No, that's for like the BFG,
Oh.
Willy Wonka,
Oh, okay, gotcha.
those things, yeah. So,
I didn't read any of those books when I was growing up.
oh man, you missed out. They were so good. I want to reread them too, but
I love rereading stuff like that when you reread like your childhood stuff because it's got all the beautiful nostalgia feels. So it's just
I know.
it's fab.
Right.
We were talking about there was a few series that got us into reading. A big one for us was Harry Potter.
Oh, of course.
I think-
Of course, yeah.
Because man, you wanna know how old I am? We used to read Harry Potter when I was in elementary school. Like our teachers would read us to it.
Oh,
read it
really?
to us. They didn't read us to it. Yeah. And then of course we talked a lot about the Inheritance Cycle, which you just finished,
Yep.
and all the other fat books by like
There's so many.
Yeah, seriously.
So many good ones,
so many.
especially for fantasy.
Yes.
I mean, I'm biased, but
I
I think
am
fantasy
too.
just
Like I have learned throughout the years that if I say like, oh, I like to read, that I have to be specific sometimes. Like, oh, I like to read fantasy,
yeah.
because then people be like, oh, here's this philosophy book. I'm like, oh no.
Get that out of my face.
Seriously, I'll use it as firewood or something. But that's about it. And I keep the math books away too.
Yes, right. Oh, definitely those. That's no good.
No. Yeah. So fantasy is where it's at.
Always
We
and
get
forever.
because I wish we could. I don't remember exactly what it was, but Brandon put one in one of his secret projects, like this really good line. You could tell people who are like, fantasy is stupid or whatever because it's fantasy, but like, no, you can still learn a lot from fantasy. There's so many lessons,
It's very
even
true.
if there's dragons and mermaids and whatever.
Right. It just makes it that much fun.
Yes,
That much more fun.
Exactly. And you are like me. You read to get out of this world and
Exactly.
to
It's this
explore a new one and
escapism.
everything. And it's so great when you find a book by Brandon
Mm-hmm.
or any other author.
Oh, I
you
guess
really
I'm like I've read a Brandon.
Yes, like you've read it.
I'm like,
But
definitely.
it's a beautiful thing when you find a book that just draws you in,
Right.
which is what Fourth Wing has been doing.
And see, I think that's what gets people like really, I want to say addicted, but that's what keeps people on that high. Once you hit that level of escapism where it just, you forget everything else around you, I think it's like you crave more and more.
Oh, definitely.
It's not even, because, you can love a book or like a book, but that's not, I think, what keeps people reading. It's like once they find that one book that they can connect with, from there on, it's like you can't get enough. You want to find that next high. At least that's for
literally,
me.
like, we don't go out there and do unmentionable things. We just read a book.
Just read a book. That's our high.
Exactly.
That's good for us.
Well, yes, we're going to jump into Fourth Wing. We're going to split up into 4 parts. So we read a bit of this book, however far it is, 25%.
Yeah. And so I think we ended on chapter 11,
Yeah.
whatever page that was.
Yes, there you go. Sorry we didn't announce anything, but chapter 11 is what
Yeah,
we're going to be coming up to.
That's what
But
we'll
it's
do.
been out. This has been out for a while. When did it come out? Like May? Earlier this year?
I feel like everyone who really wants to read it has read it at this point.
Yeah, definitely. So hopefully they'll be like, oh yes, I know what's happening.
We'll have to post
They'll-
spoiler warning.
Yeah,
Don't
right.
watch. Because I hate when that happens to me.
Oh
so
yes, definitely.
Won't do that.
I was actually super shocked. I didn't realize Fourth Wing came out earlier this year when Iron Flame was coming out. And then I happened to look it up. I was like, oh wow, Fourth Wing has only been out for like a few months.
Yeah.
So
crazy.
Rebecca is just wanting to pump these out or something. I'm kind of curious. If like this is how it's going to be. Are we going to expect the third book in like 6 months or so, or is that kind of just like a one-time thing, and maybe she's going to need more time to write the next few books, since we have heard that this is going to be a 5-book series. So
I know Sarah J. Maas, for a while, she was doing like really fast releases, but after, it picked up and got more popular, she kind of obviously had to take more time, I think, in between. So who knows?
Which I like that when they do that. I mean, like, it really sucks when you have to wait like a few years for a book, but when you finally get it and it's good, then it's worth it. But if you get like kind of a crappy, it's not a very good story, or they just didn't put as much time as they needed to into it, then that,
for sure,
you look at that and be like, oh, this could have been better.
Right, that exactly. And I think it's almost more, it's a bigger letdown when you get like that next book you've been waiting for to have it, not be what you imagined it to be. Instead of, I'd much rather have like a movie, right? Like a movie series you're watching, and have like the next movie be a letdown, more so over a book. Because a book, I feel like you just invest that much more time in.
You do, because a movie, it's like a couple hours of your life.
Yeah.
But a book, depending on how fast you read and how often you read and stuff, it can be like weeks, or if you read one of Brandon's massive 1,200-page books, then maybe a month or two.
Oh my gosh. Jeez.
Well, chapter 1. We're jumping right into, it's very clear that our main character here is in like a military family.
Yeah.
They refer to the general, but we quickly learn that this general is Violet's mother.
Yes.
And oh boy, the biggest thing I learned from this for the first few pages is this is quite a harsh world.
Yeah, definitely.
This is not, grow up for 15 years, all la-di-da.
Right.
It's like you're being trained to go die.
Right.
That's literally what it felt like.
And death is very normalized.
Yes.
It seems like,
it's crazy. I was blown away. Like you in the first little bit, we meet the general, who is the mother of our main character, Violet, and then her older sister, Mira.
Yeah.
And Mira mentions that there's like 30 or 40 people, I think it was.
Mm-hmm.
People die in the trials. I forgot what they called it, but the trials to become a dragon rider.
Yeah.
And yet it was just casually like 30 or 40, and I was, oh, geez.
Right.
I can imagine like going to college and being like, okay, well, the entrance exam is going to kill most of you.
Right.
Type of thing.
Yeah.
But then it totally blew me away when you get later on the book, like how quickly people started falling. Right. Like I'm so used to other books where like you get to know someone and maybe you'll know them for a book or so, and then something happens and dies. You're like, oh, I was so attached. But it's nearly like you literally meet someone like, oh, hey, how'd you know? Oh, he's dead.
Right. And that's what I was going to bring up is I like from how the very beginning, Rebecca makes you root for these characters from the very start. And then you end up rooting for them and starting to care about them just for them to end up dying in this, a horrific way. And it's like, oh, I did not see that coming.
Yeah.
Because she, builds a background for them that you're like, oh, nice, sweet. I hope they get that. I hope they get what they're hoping for.
Yeah, and I think she did a pretty good job at kind of making you like the characters or hate them in the beginning.
Yes, yeah, 100%.
Like, let's talk about Dylan for a second.
That's what I was, Dylan was...
Because, like, Dylan, well, I think we could talk about for a second that when Mira was kind of escorting Violet up to the initiation, whatever you want to call it, when they were whatever trial they had to go through to become a cadet, not even to be a rider. You gotta even pass like this test to become someone who might get a dragon, type of thing.
Right.
And she gave a piece of advice like, don't make friends, make allies.
Yeah.
And it didn't really work. Violet, it wasn't that kind of person.
Right. Which is what I like.
Yeah. What I do too. I don't, because we do meet some characters who are of that mindset, and some of them are okay. Some of them are kind of like, I hope you die next.
Right.
But so we quickly meet Dylan, and they talk about it, and you start to like him. He's a nice guy. He makes friends with Violet, and she likes him and stuff. But then he literally is gone. He dies.
Yeah.
And like the
and-
first, he doesn't even he gets barely anywhere in this trial. I want to find out what it was.
I want to say, because I have it marked here, but what I liked about Dylan is you really get to know what he wants his future to look like. He has plans for his future. You know, he is preparing to propose to his girlfriend after finishing all of this, and he's carrying the ring with him, and he's just as confident as can be. He even says, "I'm not dying." And so you're like, okay, he's got this. He's prepared. And that is the exact opposite of what ends up happening.
So I had a hard time picturing what this was, but like the first obstacle they gotta overcome is like a bridge
Yeah.
thing that they gotta go across. But of course it's raining, so it's super slick, and he literally
Yeah.
like just walks out onto it and falls.
Right.
He almost seems like it's gonna catch himself, but then I think it was totally supposed to be one of those moments where they were like, "Dylan, you're okay." Oh,
right.
he's
There
gone
goes
just like
Dylan.
that, and holy crap, it's just
Right.
it's just crazy.
Have you ever seen Alice in Wonderland? Like the classic where it's like, there goes Bill.
I don't think so. No.
Oh, dang.
the
That's what
oldest
I-
one I've seen is the Disney one, the cartoon.
Oh, yeah, that one. That's
Oh,
the
it
one.
is that one?
That's the vintage. Yeah, that's the classic.
Oh,
Where he's like, it's the lizard or whatever that gets shot through the chimney.
oh,
And
is this so? It's like the dodo bird dude.
Yeah, and he's like, there goes Bill.
Okay,
Yeah, that's what I imagine.
super
goes
casual
Dylan.
about it. Yeah.
Right.
And the thing that would kill me, I mean, they're so used to it, so it just blows me away being the person who's not around death that much,
Right.
is the parents can't, I think they have a choice to go find his body, but there's just like all these bodies down, and that's kind of just it. And the parents are just like, it doesn't even seem like they
Right.
don't even have like a funeral or anything, like, oh,
I think
you
they
were
had
such a good kid type of thing.
I read they have a choice. Either, oh man, it says in the book they have a choice between two options, and I think one of them is they can get the belongings. Oh, I can't say for sure, but I need to find it.
I think that's kind of ringing a bell. I think it was something like they had the option to go get the bodies and stuff.
Yeah.
And I think for the future, for the people who made it and actually became cadets, if they died, then the parents could get their belongings. Because I think their funeral ritual was something like the parents could get their belongings and burn it as their funeral, or they could just have the school burn it.
Yeah, that's what. Yep.
Okay.
Exactly. So, not the best options.
I would die with that if I was a parent and like my kid was like, okay, have fun at school. The next day you hear he died.
Yeah.
Like, oh,
I don't think I mean, at the same time, I feel like everyone in this society seems to become pretty comfortable, besides Violet. That's something I like about Violet. But everybody else seems pretty unfazed by death. It seems to be just
it's way too
something
easy
that
for 'em.
happens. Yeah. But Violet, she doesn't see people as a number. She sees them as, who they are. She counts them as a human being. And
Yeah.
she even talks about that, where they count off the numbers of the people who die, and she's like a lot more taken aback by it than the rest of the people there.
Which I'd be right there with her. I wonder if that's exactly what she was written that way on purpose, because she's more relatable to us,
Yeah.
to people who go to work and to school and to all of our other things during life, when we don't see people just dropping like flies.
Right. And I think that's something I like about what Rebecca did with her character is I feel like you read a lot about, female leads who it just seems like they're very headstrong. They're so, super tough. Nothing can tear them down. And, you see their soft side here and there, but she really tries to make Violet that soft side part of her strong qualities as
Yeah.
well. It makes her strong because she's caring. And I really like that.
Another thing I liked about learning about Violet's character is sometimes you get used to reading about characters that are not only like headstrong but they're like physically tough. Like let's talk about Aragon for a second. Like when you first start Aragon, he's not just some weak little boy. No, he's like a farmer. He's a hunter.
Yeah.
He knows to at least somewhat handle himself. He was like what 14 or something like that, and he was up in this mountain by himself hunting when he found Saphira's egg. And so like usually you're kind of used to like that, but Violet is kind of the opposite. Like she's actually quite the opposite. She's weaker than the average person.
Right.
Seems like I think they call her brittle a lot, and she is very brittle.
Yeah.
But so I thought it'd be super interesting to see her character grow, especially in this type of a world, because she can't just muscle her way through everything. She's going to have to be smart about it.
Yeah, for sure. And that's a very good point, is they really do, Rebecca really talks a lot about in this book just how fragile physically Violet is, and how she really has to not only fight to survive mentally, but physically too. It's a battle in every way to try and fight it out, which makes it that much more intense. So it's really cool to see how she progresses so far and uses the strengths that she does have to her advantage.
Yes, she does have one thing going for her that I really like. She's got speed, and she's skilled with a blade.
And she's super smart.
Yeah, and she is smart. We should say, I'm sure everyone out there already knows, but we're going to say it anyway. She wanted to be a scribe.
Yeah.
She doesn't even want to be a dragon rider, but her entire family was dragon rider. I think except for her dad. Her dad wasn't, but
yeah, her dad. She wanted to follow in her dad's footsteps.
her dad was a scribe.
Yeah, he was a scribe.
Yeah, so but unfortunately her dad died, and so her mother kind of took over everything and was like, I will not have a child of mine become a scribe. I will. And so she's being forced to be a dragon rider.
Which also just kind of goes to show that in this society, it's very much so, tiered. Like, you have the dragon riders on top, and you go down from there.
Yeah. It's almost the same thing as, like, our history, like the medieval times where there's, like, the royal people and the people of royal blood and whatever. Except that these people aren't royal. They can actually earn their status.
Yeah.
But there still definitely is, like, oh, you're not a dragon rider, so the dragon rider has more rights than you do type of thing. Right. It definitely feels like.
Right, exactly. They kind of value the ones who can have more, what's the word I'm thinking of? They don't necessarily value different characteristics as much as others.
Yeah, it definitely seems like that.
Yeah.
I want to do a bit of world building here. This was interesting to me. That this whole world, it seems like it doesn't seem like it has been in a war for a very long time, hundreds of years. And what I thought was funny, because just because of the way that I have seen dragons and griffins throughout all the books I've read, is like they're quite different. Like griffins are definitely strong magical creatures in their own right, but it always kind of seemed like, well, dragons are the apex of everything. There's nothing like another dragon could take on another dragon, but everything else is pretty much below the bar, and you better stay out of their way type of thing. So I was thought it was really interesting that there is a war between all these people. Like there's two races of people: the people of Navarre, people of whatever that other place was called.
Yeah.
Poromiel
or something like that.
Yeah, something like that. And so I thought it was super interesting that like there's the people where Violet lives who are dragon riders, and the riders and the dragons team up to fight against the griffins, and then there's people who ride the griffins and fight the dragons, because it seems like griffins are also they seem big, but like horse size or maybe a little bigger, something like that.
Yeah.
But and dragons always like seem massive creatures. Like there's been some stories I've read where there have been like smaller ones, but they get big, and they're like how does a griffin in battle hold up against a dragon?
Right, especially when I think about it, you find out, these dragons have abilities, and their riders gain these abilities. So what do the griffins have?
Yeah, I want to learn that too.
Do griffins have special abilities?
Mm-hmm. They must, because they did talk about the magic with the griffins. And I swear, like, the only difference between the griffins and the dragons, besides their, like, obvious, like, physical differences, is they both can use magic, but the dragons, for some reason, can put up wards that prevent anyone but other dragons or other creatures that use their magic from entering that space or going past the ward, which is super interesting
Yeah.
and weird and odd, but interesting.
Yeah, I'm excited to learn more about the Griffins for sure. Griffins?
Yeah. Yeah. Yes.
So I'm saying it right? Okay.
If you're saying it wrong, I'm saying it wrong. And going along, we're gonna be stuck on this harsh worldness for a while, I think.
Yeah.
'Cause especially with these first dozen chapters, it's really focused on it. But not only is just getting to be a dragon rider a super tough, harsh way to go, and just like your odds of survival are just so low, but apparently the dragons are even just like, if you do something they don't like, they don't ask questions. They have a total, they don't even have a shoot now, ask questions later mentality. They just have, get out of my way, dead. Like,
Yeah.
you
They don't
can't
think
even be
twice
like, oh,
about
I'm
it.
sorry, please just, I'll get out of your way. You'll never see me again type of, you can't do nothing.
Right.
You're just going to be dead if you upset a dragon, even in the smallest way, it always seemed like. So I was really taken aback by that because I'm so used to the inheritance cycle where like the dragons can be cranky, but they're not so unreasonable that they'll just kill you for no reason. At least none of the dragons we meet in that series. Maybe there was old dragons before the riders came to be that did that or something. But it seems like since these dragons bond with riders, and like work with humans, it just blows me away that they're so quick to kill them. Like they're so quick to kill the people that are allies. Like you can't just let them live and go be somewhere else. They're just dead.
On that topic, it just makes me wonder, how did the dragons and the riders come to an agreement that they would work together? You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%.
Like, how, if they were so, was it the bond? Was a bond was just started, or how?
Yeah, I feel like there was a little bit of hint with this somewhere in the beginning that the dragons needed the humans because the humans have the powers they can get from the dragons, but they don't. The dragons can't use them themselves, I think. I could be very wrong about that.
Oh, no, I think I remember because Violet, well, that would be down further, but like,
We can skip around.
I don't know where that, I don't even know if that's in the same, I don't think we get to that part yet where she gets her.
Where she gets her dragon?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's actually past this first 25%.
Because it would make sense because it talks about how the dragon had to sleep for like a week because Violet used the power.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, so we'll get into that next episode about a little more about the powers once we.
Yeah, because I'm like,
Understand.
wait, that's not.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I guess we talked about Dylan and his death.
Yes.
So along the way, she meets Jack. Like you were talking about with Dylan, you end up rooting for these characters. At the same time, like you said, you also end up really despising some characters. And one of those characters is Jack.
Yeah, Jack. Jack needs to die.
Jack is the Jack.
Yeah, he is. Well said.
I think one of her first encounters with Jack is he immediately has it out for her. And she looks back behind her and he's shoving somebody off the bridge.
Yeah. So that's another thing that blows me away. Is like they're so numb to death. Like if someone just dies by accident like Dylan, it's like, oh, that really sucks. But it goes even farther that like they don't even bat an eye if another person kills someone else.
Yeah.
Yeah. And something we didn't mention that maybe we get to mention is the reason Jack is after Violet is because of who she is. Because her mother, I forgot her name because we don't learn it till later.
I think it's just General Sorrengail.
I think we heard the first name, but General Sorrengail is her mother, and she is like the general over the school, the Basgaiath school. So like for some reason, everyone kind of views it as like, I'm gonna get status if I get rid of her,
right?
Type of thing. So that's for some reason one of the reasons. Like Jack has absolutely no reason to kill her, but he has got it out for her hardcore, and he's also one of those people who's just like, if you're in my way, he's like a dragon. If you're in my way, I'm going to just kill you. Right. Actually, he seems worse than a dragon because the dragon kind of I would imagine like leaving you alone if you manage to either not get on their bad side even a little bit, or you just completely stay out of their way.
I was gonna say, because Jack is so volatile, That's the right word, right?
I'm gonna go with yes.
It makes me wonder, like, what is Jack's backstory? Why is he so brutal, and why does he show no mercy?
I almost wonder if it kind of is the same-ish kind of story as Violet, but on a much darker level. I imagine him coming from a family, or maybe like a parent who is also a dragon rider, or really wants him to be a dragon rider, so they were kind of just like super strict with him. They're probably like I would imagine his parents being abusive type of thing,
Right.
and just making him grow up with a general sense of not caring about other people and
Right.
only caring about himself, what he wants, his goals and stuff like that.
I could totally see that, where it's, you just have to, that's the way you live. It's what's that phrase? Dog eat.
A dog eat dog world.
Yeah, dog eat dog world. Yeah. I don't know how you would.
Close enough.
Yeah, that.
And they mentioned something. I think this is after the conscription starts. Dang it, I already forgot what it was called. Yeah, conscription day. One thing we learn that kind of gives us more of a little bit of like what's going on in this world is apparently the number of dragons willing to bond is decreasing every year. Like there's, for some reason, we don't know why yet, but for some reason less and less dragons are willing to go and bond with humans. And I have a few theories, like maybe like the dragons themselves their population is declining, and maybe they're just not keeping it up or something like that. We don't really know how long the dragons live either.
And where did they mention that?
I think it was after, I think, because we know that they talk about when she bonds Tarn. I think it's Tarn. When she bonds Tarn, he says he's 100 years old, so we know they can be pretty old. And I think they considered him middle aged, so maybe like 200-ish years is the life of a dragon.
Okay, so that's after the 125.
Yeah, but that's after the 125. We'll get that next episode.
I know, we have so much to talk about. I was also going to say, talk about, obviously I mentioned this to you already, but Jack gives me Joffrey vibes. Hardcore Joffrey.
Yeah, definitely.
Just he's a control freak, basically. He has to prove that he is the one on top and that it's his way. He will find a way no matter what it takes, and he shows no mercy.
Yeah. And it's almost the same type of world, because with Joffrey, he could do whatever he wants.
Right.
And no one was going to be like, no, you can't do that.
Exactly.
The only difference between them two, I think, is that Joffrey could order someone else to do his dirty work, where Jack has to do it himself, but he seems to have no problem with that.
Exactly. Good point. That's a good...
And this kind of goes back to what I was thinking, like, with the dragons killing off the humans so quickly and easily and without thought, like, it blows me away that Jack and Violet are supposed to be allies.
Right.
Like, why... There is just such this massive like butting of heads in this competition that your allies are literally just as bad as your enemies. We haven't met the Griffin Riders and stuff. We don't know how cruel they may be, or if they are at all. Maybe they're better than these people, or whatever. I think Violet would be in the same position as if she ran into a Griffin or their rider or both, as she would be confronting Jack. Right. So it'll be interesting. I can't wait to get far enough to where we learn more about the Griffin and the people over that side of the world.
Right. Me too. Oh, and we also meet... How do you say your name?
Who?
Rhiannon?
Oh.
Rhiannon? Is that how you say it?
I think I pronounced it Rhiannon
Rhiannon?
in my head. That's what I said anyway.
I kind of skipped over it in my head and was just like, yep, her, I like her.
Exactly. Oh, I don't remember if I've talked about this before on any of the other episodes, but there's this TikTok video like, oh, when you're reading about in a fantasy book and they're traveling, like, oh, they went from and they traveled for 28 days to get to just like,
honestly,
you kind of just mumble the words in your head like
and your head's just like, yep,
yeah,
exactly.
So like it's so funny because as like fantasy readers, that's a very common thing.
Yeah.
So like I think almost everyone, unless there's the few people out there who can like look at a word and like figure out the
And
pronunciation.
they take the time to sit there and be
Yeah.
like, how do I pronounce this?
But there's people like you and me who would like we can look at the word and be like, oh, that's this word, that's this place or that person or whatever,
Yeah.
and we know what it's talking about. But like if we had to say the words, we're like,
Sure.
that one person. Yes, exactly.
Oh, that one.
Yes, exactly. We have
Yep, it's a struggle.
we have to describe the person and who they are instead of like their name and stuff.
Exactly. For sure. But we meet
Yes, Rhiannon.
Rhiannon.
And luckily this time, Violet makes a friend that does not die.
Yes, and who seems to have good intentions. As
Yes.
of right now, she seems pretty solid.
Mm-hmm. Which is great because, man, I would not survive in a world like this if I didn't have a
At
friend or
least
two.
one person to
Yeah.
trust who had your back. I mean, the other, I guess we can now go into Dane, because she does have somebody who's supposed to have her back. She ends up meeting her childhood best friend, Dane, and we kind of see who she's going to end up kind of sticking around, which is Rhiannon and Dane, pretty much.
Yeah. And Dane has been in the school for a year already.
Yeah.
And I think her sister Mira was even saying, like, once you get across, go find Dane and he'll help you and whatever. And I thought Dane was like a teacher or something at first, but it is her friend. Yeah, and he not only has been there for a year, but he's in a leadership position. I think he's just a squad leader. He's not a wing leader. But,
He's a squad leader, yeah.
Yeah, and so he actually puts Violet in his squad to kind of help her survive.
Have her back and watch out for her.
Yes. And before I'm pretty sure we meet Xaden before Dane.
Do
But
we?
I can't remember exactly the order. But anyway, we meet Xaden
We
too.
also meet Xaden, yes, along the way.
Yeah. And since we're getting into Fourth Wing a little late, as soon as we met Dane, I was like, oh, this is gonna be. I didn't think Tamlin.
Oh.
I thought I was thinking like, oh, this is the enemies to lovers person. Like her and Xaden are gonna be like
enemies to lovers.
yes, type of thing. But we'll get to it in a little bit. But I did get Tamlin vibes, but for someone else.
Oh, for someone else.
Not Xaden. That's all I'm saying.
Oh.
I didn't get Tamlin. Yeah, I did not get I got more. If I had to compare, I got more Reese vibes from Xaden because it's Reese and.
Oh yeah. Sorry, I
Yeah.
don't. I think of him as like
Rise.
Rise. Yeah.
I only say Reese because I looked it up. I looked that one up and like apparently it's Reese.
It's I mean, so many people get like different in your head. You hear it and see it
I
differently.
100% thought Rice when I first read that
same.
series, but then I looked it up and some
I
people.
know everyone's like, that's
Reese.
wrong, but that's wrong, Sarah. Actually, you're wrong. So, so you didn't from Dane. You didn't get Tamlin vibes.
So I was saving it for later. This is all I was saying, but Dane is the
Oh.
one I got Tamlin vibes from eventually.
Gotcha. More towards the end of the.
More towards the end.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he's him and Tamlin for me are kind of like on the same, almost like the same coin but different sides. Whatever that saying is.
Yeah.
Different sides of the same coin.
Mm-hmm.
Like he gave me those kind of vibes, but not 100% like Tamlin, if that makes any sense.
I think at first we're kind of like, oh, finally someone who actually cares, who really is going to try and look out for her.
Yeah.
And then you kind of see this pattern that starts to happen where every little thing she does or says, he starts to question and then make her doubt. Can I do this?
Yeah.
Should you be doing this? And she's already having those thoughts herself. So
Yeah.
you
And it doesn't help when she meets people like Jack.
Right.
And Xaden. So at this point, Jack and Xaden have both like threatened her to kill her type of thing.
Right.
So when him got those people, then her best friend is like, "Oh, you need to get out of here."
Right. And she's already going, how the heck am I going to survive?
Yeah.
So far she just needs that one person to tell her you can do this. Because as of right now, everyone but her mother is telling her, what are you doing here? You cannot do this.
Yeah, literally, she isn't even like that's another thing that I just don't like about her mom is she's not like, oh, you can do this, you got this. No, she's like, you're going to do this because I'm not going to be shamed to have a scribe for a daughter,
Right.
type of thing. So literally no one right now is like, you got this.
Right. Not one person is in
Yeah.
her corner telling her, I think you can do it.
And I don't remember all the dialogue that goes between Rhiannon and Violet, but I think Rhiannon was at least somewhat supportive.
Yeah. I think she was the only person who, she may have had her doubts herself, but she still empowered Violet to be like, okay, we got this and we'll
Yeah.
help out each other.
And I think that's happened because before they go across the bridge, Violet makes her switch shoes with
Yeah.
her so that they both have grippy shoes to go across the wet bridge.
Yeah.
So then after that, Rhiannon's like, let's be friends.
Right, I found my ally. Stay with me.
Yes. But yeah, so Dane puts both them actually in his squad.
Yes. And then we find out that Dane has powers. And I think that's where we learn about powers.
Yeah, this is the first I think it was mentioned. Where was it at?
It's on page 34.
Oh, 34.
Mm-hmm.
I'll probably omit the pink ones where I'm like, ew, Dane Atos went from attractive to cute to gorgeous. We don't need to talk about that.
So anyways, back to the stuff that matters.
Yeah. Actually, I do want to say this is one reason I wanted to do, not only just because you're my friend, but like you're a woman fantasy reader and this is like a woman book. It's not.
Yeah.
I feel like Fourth Wing is
Cater to both.
It definitely caters to both, maybe just slightly towards women.
Yeah.
Just like maybe like Jim Butcher's books are more towards men.
Right.
But you kind of get the same perspective as like on Jim Butcher's, like Harry Dresden will talk about, oh, that woman, she's got pretty legs. But then like in this book, she'll talk about like, wow, he looks really good with his shirt off.
Wow.
I'm
I
saying,
like
he's
that
gorgeous, yeah.
side.
Yeah. So I thought that's what I thought would be super fun to have you on. Like,
Yeah.
talk about this kind of stuff and
Kind of see
get
different
different perspectives.
Yeah.
Exactly. Anyway, 34 is where we read about the thing. Yeah. I didn't even mark it like a fool. I wanted to look. What do you remember what they call it? What they call these powers?
Oh, she just said, "Oh, you have powers," because he unlocked the door. He unlocks the door, or no, he locks it with his hand, twisting his hand. So he
that's
just
right.
goes, and then
I
the
mean, I
door's
was
like,
like, stay up.
she's like, oh, powers.
Yeah. My next note is on page 51.
Oh, you didn't even mark that Dane had powers?
I marked later when it says what his powers is.
Oh,
Because like that one, it just kind of says, isn't that the part that just talks about like he has powers you can see, but you don't know exactly. He just that's just one little ability he has to lock
and
the
all
door.
he says is, "Don't look so surprised." He rolls his eyes, and that's all he says, I guess.
Yeah, which I mean, like, I think he says that because I think it's well known that all the Dragon Riders have one ability or another.
Gotcha.
And Violet should know too because she has 3 family members that were Dragon Riders. She has her mother, her older brother who died, and then Mira. They all have powers. And
Right.
she even talks about earlier in the book how when her mom got mad, like the temperature went down because her mom has like some control of the climate, which is insane.
Right.
I want to see her in action, even though she's a butt crack.
Right.
I want to see what she can do when she's in the midst of battle. Just like freaking, can she just summon a storm or something? Holy crap! I want
Right.
to know.
It's like, dang it, Mom's mad again. It's snowing
Yeah.
in here.
I had a moment that I thought was super sad, and we kind of already talked about this. Where this like the only like recognition all the people who died in any part of this, whether it was like the first day of trying to get into the school or later, like all they do is just read your name, and then that's it.
Right.
There's no memorial or anything.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe their family members had something outside the school, but for the people inside the school, there's nothing. You get to hear the names during breakfast or whatever.
Right, and that's something Violet struggles with is she's, they read off the names and people go about their day like, okay, they called it out. Now anyways, let's go back to doing what we were doing. There's no real mourning. You don't mourn. You have to go and move on. You have no choice.
Like literally, if you don't move on, you just be the next one on the list.
Yeah.
I just had a thought.
15% of candidates don't make it past the
Which is
parapet.
actually, oh yeah, the parapet. That's what the first part was.
Yeah.
That was pretty low. I thought. I would have thought like 40% or something, but
Yeah.
still, it's a lot.
I guess I wonder how much overall don't pass.
Yeah. So one thing that was kind of this is the first part where you get to see the dragons is just before at the end a few dragons fly in.
Oh, that's right.
Apparently they're so intimidating and scary that some of the people like screamed and even some like ran away. And this is where we get a first taste of actual like first look how merciless these dragons are. Like
Yeah.
one of the cadets that ran, or maybe he was the only one that ran, the dragon literally just turned to him and killed him.
Yeah, set him on fire and said,
burn. He probably just let out a and then dead. But
and deceased.
it was just insane. Like it even says like he's a pile of ash in the gravel before he can even make it to the shadow of the keep. Like he barely got to move before the dragon was just like, "You're done.
You're done. Get
Yeah.
at it. Actually, you can't even get out of here. I'm just gonna kill
Yeah.
you here and
Go to heaven."
Right.
Or whatever. But I actually, this kind of gave me a thought that I didn't think about earlier. But I wonder if the dragons are like this because they're dragons. They probably don't have like a nice mommy and daddy who brushes their scales at the end of every night and tucks them into bed. Like they probably have a hard life as dragons. So I would imagine they don't like look at humans and be like, oh, these are a different species. They're way more fragile than us. We need to be a little more patient with them. We need to be careful with them. But they're still like, I want to see the dragon culture away from the humans. Like,
Yeah.
how do they run things? What's their social hierarchy type of stuff? And like, is it the kind of same thing? Like, maybe we'll see later in the series, if not this book, maybe there's going to be dragons that are weaker than the other ones that are bullied by the other dragons, or maybe they're like, I know that there's some animals on our world that are like that. Like if a baby is born and it's too weak,
Yeah.
the parents or like I'm thinking of horses. Like the stallions will kill the babies if they're crippled in some way, which I mean is horrible as that is. It's kind of a small mercy
Right.
because living a crippled animal in the wild would be hard.
Right.
But anyway, I'm kind of curious if the dragons are like that at all.
Like what makes the dragons who they are? What
Yeah.
makes the dragon politics, if you
Exactly.
will.
Yeah, exactly.
How did that start and what does it consist of? Pretty much.
Exactly.
Gotcha. And something we were introduced to Mira, but something we start to hear a lot about is Brennan. Brennan comes up quite a bit.
Yes, and we haven't really talked about him much. Maybe we could give a little summary of who Brennan is, aside from Violet's little brother.
Because Brennan is the reason Violet doesn't like Xaden, we find out. Because his dad killed Brennan.
Yeah.
Was in charge of killing Brennan. So she knows who he is. And Xaden doesn't like Violet. Well, he hates Violet because her mom was in charge of killing his parents.
Yes. And this is another part that's like super cruel. It's not even to do with dragons, but not only did General Sorengil kill Xaden's parents, like she made him watch.
Yeah.
It wasn't just like take them around the corner and do it quickly. Like
Do
they believe in like the child pays for the sins of their parents, and that's one reason why they killed his parents in front of him and all the other kids of the rebels, but they also like forced them to now try to become part of their military. And
Right. Don't think we hear about that till later.
I can't remember.
I think it's past.
Well, don't look too much into it.
Because Liam is not introduced, and that's when he tells Violet about that.
Oh,
Because Liam's the one.
spoiler for next episode.
But yeah,
Yeah.
it's yeah.
I don't want to go through all of them because I don't know where they all are, but they have, this is almost, I don't know a lot of the history with like Greek gods and Egyptian gods and what are these Gaelic gods?
Like the mythology behind
Yeah.
different, yeah.
I didn't even know this was a thing, but I thought it was super interesting to see they talk about someone, Malek, the god of death,
Oh yeah.
And like they'll throughout this book so far, they'll talk about like they need to say a prayer to such and such god of whatever.
Yeah.
Which I thought it was interesting.
And yeah.
Say that they
believe in
a
something.
world of this is a world of like dragons and griffins and war and crap, but they still have got like 20 gods or something like that.
Yeah, they have gods that they also like. So they are religious in some sort. They have something they believe in, but we don't hear much of it.
Yeah, exactly.
And what that entails. There is that she learns of, because of Xaden and seeing the mark on him and seeing the mark on others, there's what's called, I think, the Resistance.
I swear it's called the Resistance. That's
it
what
has to be called the Resistance. I don't know where I'd get that.
Yeah.
But
surprise, surprise, they have a resistance. They don't like this culture of like just everyone dying. That's probably, there's probably more to it than that, but.
Right, and so that's how she can kind of point out others around them and who's a part of the Resistance is they have those marks on their arms. Yeah. And Violet tries to be wary of every person who has that mark because she knows those people most likely have it out for her.
Yeah, which is, I really hate that. My biggest beef is like my dad did that or my mom did that. Like, why are you coming after me? Like, screw you.
Right. Exactly. And at the same time, like, you guys, your parents did something wrong, so she believes that, as of right now, she believes her mom did the right thing. Like, they're in the wrong because their parents did something they shouldn't have done.
Yeah.
So her mom had the right, or, that side had the right to do what they did. And they were just correcting it. So you see, they're supposed to be allies. You have these groups that are supposed to be allies, but there is a resistance in the middle of it. There is conflict going on within that group that's supposed to be united.
Yeah.
And
I don't remember. Did they mention if the resistance has dragons?
I
mean, I feel like they didn't, but I don't remember.
I feel like they did.
They did?
Yeah. I feel like they did.
I can't remember. But we'll go with that because I'm not sure.
I don't remember either.
We'll run into it.
Because, I mean, Xaden and all them are writers.
You're right.
So I would be surprised if they didn't. Because, I mean, they are doing the same thing. They really don't talk
That would be
much
super
about
interesting because I would love to know how that plays out with other dragons and knowing that, like, dragons are... Because again, like, I am so just... I don't want to say stuck because that sounds bad, but I'm just so used to how inheritance works.
Oh.
Like, with inheritance, it was, like, baffling for dragons to betray other dragons.
Right. Cause
like, it was just, like,
they're
ridiculous.
Family.
Yeah. So when, like, Galbatorix and the Forsworn all betrayed all the other riders, it was like, what?
Right.
Never thought the thing could happen type of thing.
Right. So it's a very different type of...
Yeah.
If you're comparing it to the inheritance cycle, it's a very different type of dragon world. These dragons do not abide by the same rules.
No, not at all. They've got that's why I gotta get out of my head. Like, I gotta reset. Like, this is different.
Right. This is a different story, different world.
Yes, exactly.
67 people fell or died in some way today. 67, just like Dylan, whose parents will either collect their bodies or watch them be buried at the foot of the mountain under a simple stone.
Oh, that's what it was. They get buried at the foot of the mountain.
I swear there was something with burning, though.
There is. That's what they do with their belongings. They burn it for some reason. I can't remember why exactly, but it was part of something.
And I can't force myself to cheer for their loss. Because Xaden says, you're all cadets now. Take a look at your squad. These are the only people guaranteed by Codex not to kill you. But just because they can't end your life doesn't mean others won't. You want a dragon, earn one. Most of the others cheer, but I keep my mouth shut. Because she's like, yeah, we made it, but are we not going to think about all the people we just lost?
Yeah.
So she's very much so thinking of the entire picture. She's not so like, oh my gosh, I need to be a dragon rider. That's the only thing that matters. She's thinking, okay, I hope to get to that point. I need to work towards that. But at the same time, can we please look at what else is happening? Can we please look at the entire picture and not just I'm in it for myself and myself only, and screw everyone else.
Yeah, I think that's a super good point because what these guys are training for is to go to war against the people across the wards with the Griffins and stuff.
Yeah.
So how is it you're supposed to go from like working next to someone who is trying to kill you
Yeah.
to working with that person to kill someone else? Like I would not trust. Like
Right.
he's been the one trying to kill me this whole time. Why am I focused on that guy instead of this guy?
Right. Like after they make it, after everyone, comes out alive, then the dragons come in and then they kill
Yes.
some more people. So it's like, even if you pass these trials, you never know what else could kill you. I
Yeah,
mean,
literally.
you have Violet who uses her strengths, with her knowing poisons. You know what I mean?
Oh, right.
So she starts to think outside the box and go, okay, well, if I can't beat them physically, how can I beat them in other ways? So that's something I love about this too, is you never know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
If they don't die in a trial, they can dry off. They can die in another way,
Yes. And this is actually where we just solidify that Jack is a jackass.
Yeah.
Because what they're doing is just sparring. They're supposed to be like, I don't even remember. Are they just learning to fight, or are they trying to just establish levels or something? I can't remember.
I think they're just trying to strengthen themselves. I think it's like,
It's just like exercise type of thing, like a gym
Right.
class. So it's not supposed to be a competition really, but Jack doesn't care.
yeah.
And even though like you hear Zayden say, like these are the people who are not going to kill you, it's still not true.
Yeah.
And even though, so Jack is sparring with another guy and kills him.
Right.
He gets him,
his neck.
snaps his neck, and the teacher there doesn't punish Jack at all. It's just like, hey, we're not killing.
Right. It's like a slap on the wrist. It's like, don't
Literally.
do that.
And he makes some
Anyways.
stupid excuse like, how was I supposed to know his neck was so weak? Like, you idiot. Why? So it's
How
just,
was I supposed to know this knife was so sharp?
yeah, exactly,
You know?
exactly.
Right? It's like,
Twist that
you
right in it.
dummy. I mean, you are dumb, but come on. Stupid Jack.
So we hope he dies.
Horrible death like
death.
Joffrey.
Maybe Violet will poison him like Joffrey was poisoned.
Oh, man. I hope it's worse.
That'd be great.
Oh, so she ends up surprising Professor Markham, who she trained with for most of the time, because he was her scribe. He was so he sees her and he is very disappointed and sad because he was thinking
he was
she
expecting
was
she would go there.
Yeah, the star pupil. She was going to be his next.
Yeah, and we do learn that she is, for whatever she's lacking physically, she makes up for in mental. Like that's her thing. She's a book nerd type of thing. Like she would much rather go to the library and read something than go to some brawl.
Right. She finds just as much purpose in doing scribe work as she does with all this physical aspect. She sees the purpose and the need for both. I mean, sure, you can be strong, but if you don't know what you're doing and the purpose you're there and, the history and stuff, that only gets you so far. And same with being a scribe. If you just know things and you're not strong, you can only go so far. So Violet, again, is thinking about the whole picture. She's really using every strength that she can.
Which she needs it, since everyone else is so brutal.
Right.
I do like that Rhiannon is a pretty kick-ass girl.
Right.
Like she's like doing the opposite. Like everyone, no matter who she goes into the ring with, she like takes out. And it's funny because this is well, we learned from Jack that if you kill someone, they'll be like, "Hey, stop that," but whatever.
Yeah.
Someone move this body. But it's still kind of brutal where you're like, they'll call out like yield, and like the guys are like hate being beat up by a girl, so they'll be like no, and then so she pops their arm out of the socket or something like that.
Yeah.
I'm just like, don't freaking just yield.
Right. And she Rhiannon is also like, please, I'm gonna fail my other tests because I'm not.
Oh yeah, they make a deal to Rhiannon's gonna help Violet physically, and she's gonna help Rhiannon with math or whatever
Right.
whatever class they do.
Exactly. So it kind of comes full circle of you do need to have both in order to succeed.
There was one small thing. I don't know if you knew this about me, but I like pens and stuff. And like I practice a little bit of calligraphy. I'm not that good, but I still like doing it. So
Yeah.
I thought this was super interesting because apparently everyone who is not a dragon rider has to use a quill and dipping ink.
Oh.
But when you become a dragon rider and you can channel some power, you can use the power ink pens instead of the inconvenient quills, as she kind of thinks. It's like
Interesting.
you need a dragon in order to use one of these things.
Right, you don't got the privileges.
Yes, exactly. Which I thought was really funny.
Yeah, that is funny.
Yeah, and it's also on that same area where we learn what Dane's signet is, which I think was cool. But also,
Oh, is that where we learn?
yeah, it's on page 51.
Do I even have it marked?
Oh my gosh.
How, who am I? Who do I think I am?
But his power is crazy, I think. And I'm
I didn't mark it.
well,
Who am I?
mark it now.
He's effing ruthless, Violet. How do you think his dragon chose him?
Was that about Zayden or someone? Or?
That's Dane.
That is
talking
Dane.
About
Okay.
Zayden.
So Dane's power is he can read a person's recent memories.
Oh, that's right.
So I was totally thinking like if they kind of put you in an area where your signet can be most useful, like he would be put into some sort of police force,
Wait a second.
like
but
military
how-
police or something.
If he has that power, then how can he move objects?
Because I think there's like the main ability. His biggest ability is to read someone's thoughts,
Yeah.
their recent memories. But all writers can still do like the little things too.
Okay.
But there's more unique abilities that they can get.
Oh, okay. I see. I didn't know that. I thought you had. That's why.
Yeah.
Was
Yeah. So I wouldn't be surprised if most, if not all, the dragon riders can lock doors by doing whatever gesture he did, as well as power the pens that they have.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah. So I did have a theory that maybe he would be put into like a military police type of position or something to, but maybe they don't care about that kind of stuff. Maybe like, oh, someone murdered someone? Oh, well.
Right.
So maybe, but it still could be actually useful now I'm thinking about it. Maybe they could take someone prisoner from the enemy and he could just like touch them or whatever and be like, okay, this is what happened. This is the meeting they had and stuff,
Right.
which would be kind of cool.
And then
They would never be able to hide nothing.
no, that's very useful. And I think they also base the dragons off of how the powers that you get. Like if you get a super powerful dragon, you're most likely to have a really powerful power.
Yeah.
So you just never know.
Do you remember what General Sorrengail's dragon is? It was like a red one, orange one.
I think it was
Because she's got a pretty powerful dragon, a big dragon. That's why she gets something crazy like climate control.
I don't remember what I know it talks about it. I can't remember. Cuz the generals, the main general, the highest one, his is black, right?
There is one of the general. I don't remember. I think he is like the general of all the generals type of thing. Or he is over all of the dragon riders. And yes, he had a black dragon that was like the biggest dragon of all of them. I don't remember if it talked about his powers, but he's probably got something insane.
I think they do
Like
talk
to look
about
at you and turn you to dust.
right. I know they do talk about his powers, but can't remember what they are.
We'll hopefully get to that. I didn't want to make a correction because I just got to the part I talked about earlier that the dragons could power the wards so the griffins couldn't get past, but it's the griffins can't use their power within their border.
Okay.
So so that would be insane. Like if you're an invading army and you get into like, oh, I suddenly
Lost all my
my wizardly goodness is gone.
yeah.
So,
I am basically useless here.
yeah.
Yeah.
So it sounds like the griffins and the people of Poromiel would have to resort to like beak and claw and swords and bows and arrows and stuff like that, while dragons are like slinging magic and fire breathing crap.
They're like, anyway, so this and this and this, and
Yeah,
they're like,
so that
frick.
just- Literally, that just makes it even more. I want to know more of like how do the
how is it even a competition?
Yeah,
really?
exactly. How is it that do they just have like overwhelming numbers so the dragons can't breathe in the fire or something? I don't know.
I don't know.
I really hope. I've talked about this with Jordan on other episodes, but we love it when we get the chapters that is just like history or something like that. Like actually, what I would like to compare it to is it was really interesting in Harry Potter when you get to the Order of the Phoenix and they go to the Ministry and they're dueling and fighting and like that was really good. But what I liked more was in the Half-Blood Prince when Dumbledore takes Harry through all of the memories he's collected learning about Voldemort. So you learn about Voldemort's grandparents, his parents,
Right.
his history, the orphanage. You learn about all that stuff. It's fascinating.
See, that's why I love backstory because it
Yeah.
really gives you a better understanding of the characters.
Yeah, definitely.
You go, oh, okay, that's
like
why
you totally
are the way
understand.
you
Like,
are.
oh, no wonder Voldemort's a douche. Is because well,
Yeah.
look at his life. It totally sucks.
Right. That's why I'm like, why is Jack the way he is? Why are you the
Yeah.
way you are?
That would be super interesting. So all I'm getting at is I really want to learn the history of this world. Like, how did this
Right.
war start? Why are the dragons and the griffins at odds?
Right.
And all that fun stuff.
For sure. I agree. I would like to know that too.
Hear that, Rebecca? Give it to us.
Right. And maybe she will in the upcoming chapters. Who knows?
They talk about that in this same paragraph that they talk about the dragons being able to block them out is that dragons and griffins can channel powers to the riders. So I'm super curious about the power level difference. Like, I mean, there are dragons who have stronger abilities than other dragons, but how do they compare to the griffins? Are the griffins like just as powerful? Are they kind of the same scale? Like there's super powerful griffins and maybe not so powerful griffins.
Right.
I really want to know how that all goes down whenever they meet.
Yeah. And why are they even at war? Why are the griffins and dragons at war?
I wonder if it says that somewhere and we just completely forgot
I
about
don't think it does.
it. I don't think it does. I feel like that'd be a big enough thing.
Yeah, I don't think it does.
I hope we're not just like forgetful.
I know.
They have this class, and in that class, it's almost like a strategy class or just like I don't remember what it is. It's one of their classes about being a dragon rider and fighting and they'll actually give reports like, oh, the people over yonder attacked us, all the griffins attacked us.
Yeah.
And I think this is giving like hints, kind of like where this story is going to be going, is the griffins and the riders didn't like pillage like they normally would.
Oh, yeah.
It seemed like they were like looking for something, but they had no idea what they were looking for. So I am kind of just theorizing like, what do they want? Are they looking for something that's going to give them more of an edge? Are they looking for a way to end this war in some way? Or are they looking at a way to like maybe put up their own wall so the dragons have to stay over there, they stay over there, and they just go their own ways and live life like that, or what?
Or maybe they took something that makes it so they lost their powers.
Yeah, they're something to negate the dragon's powers, maybe something to give them a bargaining, like, if you guys don't surrender, we're going to break this rock.
No. Yeah. I don't know.
And in
That's
that
a good point.
in that same page, it was one of the teachers was talking, and they were just like, something in their tone tells me it's not just third years who might be called into service this year. So apparently, up until some point in this book, I'm feeling third years could be called just kind of as like a backup. They weren't putting like front lines or anything, but they were like, hey, we're getting attacked here. We need some help. Maybe just to guard our backs or provide support, bring us supplies, something like that.
Yeah.
But due to the fact that so few dragons are bonding, or at least not as many, they're making it sound like maybe not just they might go all the way. Everyone in Basgiath is going to be called like not just third years or even second years, but maybe it's like Violet and all the other first years who bond.
And that's what Violet was kind of going, well, we really don't think we're going to have as much time to prepare. I marked page 70 where we kind of get to know Brennan a little bit more. And we find out Brennan was a mender. And
oh yeah, that was like a super rare one.
That was a really, really rare gift to have. Or power. I mean, gift, power, same thing, pretty much. But
they call it signet in this, but it's all the same. Gift, power, signet.
Right. And she says Brennan was a mender and would have become one of the greatest had he lived. So
I'm
let's
curious.
talk
That
about.
makes me think how old he was. I don't.
So Menders, what were Menders again? What was their why? What made them so great? It was healers.
I think that's what it was. They were some sort of healer. Like it's kind of just in the name. They could mend you.
The Menders, were they still dragon riders?
Yeah, because I think specifically when you talk about like healers among the dragon riders, they were menders because they weren't like they've got healers of their own type of thing that probably just like slap a band-aid on there and be like, hey, let it heal. But the menders could use their dragon magic to actually heal someone.
Maybe on the battlefields they could.
Yeah,
be
exactly.
Healing people.
They're like a souped up medic.
Okay, because that kind of confused me. Because you see Violet getting taken to the medical wing basically, and they're not necessarily out and about, and at least not from what we see or hear. So when I found out Brennan was a mender, it made me go, okay, well, is he still going to be out and like the dragon rider, or do they go,
I see what you're
great,
saying.
so now we got to take you
Yeah,
in
so I think the people who tend to Violet were regular healers people. They weren't
menders.
riders.
Okay.
Yeah. But there is one who was a rider who's around. But I remember like she didn't want him to heal her
Right.
because to make her look weak and everything.
Gotcha. That's right. Okay.
I don't remember his name, but yeah, there is a Mender Dragon Rider there.
Okay.
Again, if we're getting that right. Sometimes I always like.
Oh, right here. His name was Nolan.
Oh yes, Nolan.
Yep.
Yes, it sounds like Nolan is the other Mender, and I feel like Nolan and Brennan were the only ones right now.
Yeah.
And now there's just Nolan.
Yeah.
Which is impressive, surprising more so that he is back at Basgiath instead of like on the front lines healing up all the peeps there.
I think it's because of his age, right?
He might be older actually. That could be it. I
'Cause
can't
I'm
remember.
pretty sure he's old.
Didn't he have like a cane or something?
I think there was something that defined that gave the idea that he was older. Oh, on on page 76, Violet starts to read Brennan's journal.
Yes. Which Mira gave to her when she left because Mira had that journal when she went through, like he wrote it for Mira.
Yeah.
And then Mira passed it on to Violet.
And that's where she gets the idea of knowing who's going to be up against her on the mat, which we get to page 79, and she is up against Xaden.
Like there was no one willing to fight her or something?
I don't know how that happened. I think that's just who she faces. I think because he was talking to her. Because he didn't really end up hurting her.
Oh yeah, because this is where she actually like catches them meeting, the marked meeting. So they're not like in the sparring. Is that what
that's what I thought.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm sinking down lower and lower, and I'm just like...
They're just going to be dead by the time.
So I'm like, anyways, Violet's kicking trash.
So I thought there was something interesting. Violet catches Xaden and the other marked like having a meeting, and there is a law or rule. I don't know if it's a law, just general or like just at the school. Though the marked kids, they're not even kids. Like Violet is 20 years old. So the marked, I should just say, are not allowed to meet with more than 3 people. And then they've got like a big meeting of like 15 people. And what I thought was interesting is Xaden is talking to like one of the first years who is also marked, and like he's like struggling. He's like, I can't take this. There's all this killing. I think that's what he's kind of freaking out about. It's just a super stressful situation, which makes total sense. And Xaden says, you learn what they teach you, and keep what you know, but recite whatever they tell you. So it totally, I don't think I mentioned this before, but like, I don't know how the people of Navarre can trust the marked, why they think they can trust them.
Right.
Like, you killed their parents in front of them.
Right.
How would you, especially like the older kids, how would they not be like so vengeful against you after that? And that's kind of what I'm getting from right here. It sounds like they're like kind of planning something like, okay, well, do what they tell you to do, recite what they teach you, and make it seem like you're one of them, but keep what we also know. And so that makes me think like, what do they know?
So it's like, how would you not expect them to rebel after that? How do you expect to keep them in check after you did what you did?
Yeah, exactly.
That makes sense.
So I also think maybe the military or whoever's in charge is like trying to keep something hush hush about the Mark II. Like there's some more to it. Like
Inner.
we don't understand. Like I almost kind of get the feeling that, and I wonder. I think you got me on this thought process, but like, are the rebels really that bad? Like you thinking of Star Wars, if you go talk to the Empire, they'd be like, "Oh, those rebels, they're so evil. They do blah 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 blah, and they do all these things. We gotta kill them and get rid of them, arrest them, get rid of them." But then you switch to the rebels, you're like, "Oh, actually, like they're super oppressed by the Empire and blah blah blah."
Right.
Is it something like that
Mm-hmm.
where the rebels are like trying to fight for something good?
Fight for the
while,
greater
like,
good
yeah,
secretly.
exactly.
Yeah. And I think on page 83, you know, one of them talks about, why can't we just take her out? Why can't we take Violet out right now? Why can't we just go do it? And Garrick says her mom is responsible for the capture of nearly all our parents, not her daughter. Punishing children for the sins of their parents is the Navarian way, not the Tyrish.
Yeah, no, the Tyrish. Wait, oh, that's actually cool too. We learned that they are not Navarian. But I don't think they want to kill her just because of what Xaden says just before that. He says, "I told you already the youngest Sorengale is mine, and I'll hand to her when the time is right." So he doesn't specifically say, like, I'll kill her when the time is right, or I'll get rid of her when the time is right. I'll put her down. He uses specific language that says, like, I'll handle her.
Yeah.
So I'm... At this point, I was definitely still thinking, like, oh, so they're not really, like, in love yet or anything, obviously, but...
He's not necessarily,
He's not out to kill her like Jack is out to kill her. Like, he wants to end her life.
Yeah, he's not quiet about it.
But Xaden is kind of just like...
Yeah. Like...
He's always trying to play the Jack part, but he doesn't want to kill her.
Right. He's being a bit more discreet about it.
So it'll be interesting to see where that all takes us. And when we get a little farther, we kind of talk about, or they talk about how kind of the dragons will like Jack, which I really hated that already he's not being punished at all for the things he's done, like killing other students, other cadets, other prospective dragon riders. Yeah. So, but apparently the dragons like that, so it's going to be very good odds that he's going to get bonded, which is like great. Why?
Right.
Why are you choosing this butt crack? He seems like the one who's just going to end life and not help keep it going.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so Xaden walks onto the mountain, 103. Because I think Violet's been poisoning people at this point. He's like...
Yeah, and he
also caught her.
Did he catch her actually making it?
He caught her when she was in the tree, when they were having their meeting.
Oh, right, yes.
I guess we should talk about that. I'm like, so anyways, Matt.
Yeah, so Violet is spying kind of accidentally. She's not like out to see what these guys are doing. She kind of runs onto them accidentally.
Oh, and we also find out that Xaden can wield shadows, and that's how he finds her,
which is super cool.
Yeah,
he's got another really powerful signet.
Yes. So yeah, I mean, wow.
Do we know his dragon yet? Like, his dragon was one of the dragons that flew in when all the
blue one, the blue one, huge one.
She's the biggest dragon Violet has ever seen. But do we learn her name yet? I can't remember.
My hair is going all kinds of crazy right now.
Looks beautiful.
I'm getting like Hermione hair, where it's Hagrid hair. Where I'm like,
yeah. I don't think you're quite a few steps away from Hagrid hair.
Hagrid hair.
Yeah, so Violet is caught by Xaden.
And she says,
shadowiness.
"How the heck did you find me?"
Yeah.
And she figures out he can wield shadows.
Did he straight up tell her?
My breath catches. No wonder Xaden can wield shadows. Shadows that can yank daggers out of trees. Shadows that can probably throw those same daggers. And yet he let me live.
What? You're on 85?
95.
Oh, 95. In 84. That's where he talks about it. Like, he catches her and she's like, "How did you know?" And then that's when he says, I command shadows. But
why did neither of us mark that?
We're stupid.
I guess
that's actually one thing that I've learned about when I started marking stuff. Is like, there's stuff that I don't mark. I'm like, I should have marked that.
Right. How?
And I've still got a ton of freaking tabs.
Seriously, I'm like, how did I miss that one?
Yeah. Have you seen? Some people have posted all the tabs they've done for Iron Flame, and I was like, geez, did you tab like 3 times every page? Goodness.
I heard Iron Flame is like
I can't wait.
same.
Y'all better stick around for it.
You and you and you and you.
Especially you.
You.
Yes. Oh, and he's Zayden is specifically known as a shadow wielder, which is kind of obvious since he wields shadows. They just reversed it.
Wait, what?
I was saying, like, his official title is a shadow wielder.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, Violet thinks that he's just gonna end her right now because she heard this meeting about him. We need to take out that Sorengale girl.
Right.
He's like, I'll handle her, but
And she has that on them because they can only meet in groups of 3.
yes, but she decides not to rat them out.
Because he's basically spares her.
Which I think, yeah, I think if she would have, then he would have like been forced to take her out.
Which makes you wonder, does Zayden have an ulterior motive?
Yes.
Because if his thing was to just kill her, if that was his main goal, then he would have had
This
the
would have been
opportunity.
like prime opportunity. No one would ask questions.
And he would have saved himself from having to worry about
Yeah.
Violet ratting him out.
Yeah, this definitely gave me those same kind of thought process.
Mm-hmm.
Since he could have taken it the only way, he could have taken it a completely different way. Like, oh, she saw everything. She said she's not going to tell, but is she lying? Better not risk it. right there. And he wouldn't even have to lift a finger, just send his shadowiness at her.
And she's like, well, frick. Yeah.
Well, breathing was nice, but oh well.
Right. Guess that's ending. Oh, and this is where we start to see a different side to Dane. Because after she meets with Zayden and kind of has that moment with him, does Zayden tell her something? Like, he says a phrase and she kind of keeps it in the back of her head. And, like, she...
There was one quote that he gave later that I don't think.
Oh, I guess, yeah, it is later. It's not like this part.
You talking about the part where he's like, the right way is not the only way?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's later. Because that's when she's doing the threshing.
Yeah.
So I think that is later, yeah.
You're right. But this is where we see a different side to Zane. Going back to what...
To Zane or Dane?
So I'm starting
There's
to
so
lose
many
it.
freaking names.
There
It's
is.
hard.
Going back to Dane, this is where we start to see a different side to him, where we thought he was being very caring and very, he was looking out for her. It was a positive thing. We start to see it go into the negative side, where even when she is trying to do the right thing to protect herself or to stand up for herself, Dane is constantly criticizing that. He's constantly telling her, don't make yourself a bigger target than you already are. And because she throws daggers at Jack. And Dane had told her, do not, just ignore him, leave it alone, just don't make yourself into a bigger target with him. She goes directly against that and, fights back. And so Dane pushes back on that and goes, what are you doing? And you start to go, okay, maybe Dane isn't this super nice, caring.
I definitely would say he still is like nice and caring, but he's like mega overprotective. So much so that he's like, you need to do what I say. Stop doing what you're doing.
And which I don't know, is that caring though? Instead of, I think it could be both.
Yeah, I could see it being both, because instead of like trying to help her and be like, here's how you fight or something, he's being like, don't do that.
Because it's constantly like being reprimanded, like, don't do that, don't, stop, don't. And it's just like, okay, that's not going to help me though. Either way, I still
especially
have to go
in
through
this situation, like Jack is not just a bully who's like calling her names. Like, he wants to kill her, and he's already killed several people. So it's like, ignoring him and kind of just turning my back ain't gonna help. Yeah. He's just gonna be like, okay, I'll get you from this side. Or he's gonna come after her one way or another. Because
Dane, his way of helping is, I'll get you out of this situation. He's not going, okay, let me give you some tips and tricks, and I'm gonna help you through this. It's, no, you either leave or you die, and I have to watch you die. That's it.
which is maybe an excuse of why he is like that, because he really doesn't want to see his best friend die. But
He has like no
he's a
hope in her.
ignorant. Yeah, he doesn't have any belief in her, and he's just an ignorant little boy
Yeah.
who doesn't understand
Right.
the life stuff.
Exactly.
In this same chapter, what chapter are we even in? Kind of just bouncing everywhere. Chapter 8. They bring up again that fewer dragons are bonding, and I want to know why, dang it.
Right.
I want to know what the deal is. Are they just
What's
sick of
changing?
humans? Are they becoming more wild or something, so they don't want to bond people?
Yeah.
Tell us. I hope we get to see.
For sure.
Maybe Violet will go to, I think they call it the Vale. Is that where all the dragons are living?
The Veil, I think so.
I hope she gets to go there and see what's up.
Right.
That'd be
for
super
sure.
cool. Oh, I wanted to talk about just I think it's fun, but I really like the name of Zayden's dragon, Sigale.
Sigale? That is a really cool name.
Even though, and you look at the word, you're like Sigale.
I wouldn't have even.
Sigale.
My brain, that's another one. I was just like, anyways, boop.
Oh yeah, Zayden's dragon. Whatever.
Yeah.
I only know that because I watched an interview with Rebecca Yarros, and she said Sigale.
Okay, see, my brain was trying to make it like Sajal or like
Yeah, exactly.
something
I
like
was
that.
too, but then I happened on this video, and I was like, oh, it's Sigale.
Sigale. That's cool.
Oh, and where this kind of comes up is they're in class with Professor Kaori, and this is like they're learning about dragons, and they showed Sigale, and this one was just another like, okay, so that's going to happen,
Right.
because they're looking at Sigale, and he has an ability where he can make things like out of his mind or something to make an image appear. They talking about the black dragon, and apparently there's only two that they know of. There's the general, who's the big honcho general who has a black dragon. Then there's one that hasn't been bonded in a while. He had a rider, but that rider died, and he never rebonded. And I was like, oh ho ho. There's Violet's dragon. She's gonna get the biggest, baddest one because she's the littlest little girl.
Little peep-sweet.
Like I 100% was like, oh, I wonder who is gonna bond Violet.
Yeah. Right.
And I loved, and I thought it was fitting too, because apparently like the black dragon's the most cunning of all the dragons, and
Yeah.
that's like Violet. Like the professor even says, like there's no outsmarting a black dragon. He will be outsmarted every time. So it's like, oh, who just like that?
Kind of foreshadowing.
Yes. And we have a quote in this chapter that I marked because I like quotes. Oh, let's see. Oh, and they even mentioned that, so later in the class, Professor Kaori is, I thought you were like dying over there, but you're just yawning.
I mean, I feel like time.
But Professor Kaori talks about how he taught Brennan and Mira, and he says that Violet is smarter than both of them, and I was like, oh ho, hint hint, black dragon material.
Right.
But then he also gives a quote. He says he talks about she knows more about dragons than anyone in the quadrant, and probably even anyone on the continent. They choose strength and shrewdness, and then he's even like they choose for reasons they don't see fit to share with us. And then what he says that I like is not all strength is physical.
Oh yeah.
Which is like also like, okay, so everyone's thinking like you look at Jack and like he's gonna get a dragon because he's ruthless, he's strong, he's a good fighter,
You're looking at all the physical.
la la la.
Yeah.
But they don't think about like, oh, you need to be smart too to be
Right.
in battle. So I was like, okay. I mean, it's kind of easy to predict those kind of things. Like obviously, someone's not gonna write a book about a main character who fails like 100%. Like, oh, you want to be a dragon rider? Oh, done. You're not a dragon rider. At the end.
Right. And I think that goes back to what I was saying of she tries to, and she has it all pretty much. Like, yeah, she may have those weaknesses, but she finds other ways to have those things turned into her strengths. And she makes it into where she has all those things.
Yeah, which is just lovely, I think.
I agree.
We end this chapter with Violet getting herself into a bit of a pickle. She made her opponent too sick, if I remember right. And instead of fighting someone who is sick that she can easily take out because they're not feeling well, that
Zayden,
person is like carted off to the whatever the
like the
healers are.
medics, yeah.
But yeah, then Zed's like, I'll take her place. So it's like, oh crap.
He's like, well,
You could
darn.
barely take on the other people. Now you got to take on Zayden.
Your fave bad boy.
But I actually liked that kind in a way. What I liked about it is that I was kind of like, I don't like that Violet is having to cheat in order to win. I would like her to figure out more ways to outsmart her opponents and become and like that. So I'm actually glad that like
It
Karma,
was put a stop
yeah,
to.
yeah, exactly. I'm glad that she's not going to be able to just fake her way because what is she going to do? Like
On the
sneak into
battlefield.
the Griffin's hideout and give them all drugs and stuff and then wipe them out. So
Right. So she was outsmarting them until she couldn't. Until she was found out.
until she was found out, yes.
Zayden's like, aha, you're funny. Time to die.
It's going to be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah, I'm intrigued. For sure, for sure.
Thank y'all for joining us on the very first episode of our Fourth Wing Nest. We didn't go as far as we thought we were going to, but we'll be back.
There's too many things to talk about.
Yes,
We could be here all night.
literally. We almost were.
We really were. Way longer than was expected. 30 minutes turned into what? 2.5 hours?
Something like that. Yeah, it's pretty close.
Jeez, no wonder we're starting to yawn.
Yeah, don't be sure to come back and for the next episode. We'll be jumping back and forth between finishing up the Sunlit Man and finishing up Fourth Wing and then getting an Iron Flame and all that fun stuff. And maybe by the time we finish Iron Flame, Rebecca will have the next book out. I don't know. If she's gonna pump them out as quick as she did
Right.
Iron Flame, we'll probably be seeing the third one.
I mean,
next
I'm
year.
probably going to devour this once
Right.
I have time to sit down.
Uh huh.
So,
We'll be tired until we get in bed with the book and I'm not sleeping now. I'm gonna read
boom,
this.
motivation appears, all the energy.
Which is a beautiful thing.
Indeed, it is.
It's so great when the book just sucks you in.
It really is. Best feeling in the world.
In the world.
In the world.
All right. We'll call it there.